Well, joining me now from Westminster is the Conservative MP, Andrew Rosindell, and here in the studio is John Cooper QC. Gentlemen, it's good to have you both on the programme. Andrew Rosindell, let's start with you. Why should life mean life when it comes to the murder of a police officer?
Well, I applaud the announcement by the Home Secretary today. I think that this is long overdue. It is time that we ensure that the police have the best protection in the job that they do. Life should mean life. If you kill a policeman, you lose your freedom. I believe that's absolutely right, and I believe that most British people would support that.
Here's a fair point. We've had actually inundated John Cooper with texts and tweets on this very issue. The majority of them are very supportive and saying, you know, police officers need as much protection as possible because they're out there doing our, looking after us, aren't they?
Well, it's obviously a crowd pleaser, not being a cynic. It's a police pleaser and a crowd pleaser. And it sounds good, but let's look at the reality here. Why should, however serious it is to kill a police officer, and it is serious, and it's an appalling thing to do, what's the difference between that and, say, killing a fire officer or an ambulance worker or a doctor in the course of their duties? The legal reality is that the judges have the discretion to give full life sentences if they feel appropriate, and keeping the discretion with the judge is important. But I can understand, I'm a realist, it'll play well with the public, it'll play well with the police, and it's no coincidence it's announced today.
Is that what's happening here? Is this just a populist move because Theresa May is in front of a police conference and she's not too popular with all the reforms that are going on at the moment, Andrew?
Well, no, this is going to be a deterrent, and we need more punishments that act as a deterrent. We have to stop worrying about those who decide to commit crimes and concern ourselves far more with those who are innocent and get caught up in violence. As the police officer in your interview spoke earlier, he said the police run towards danger while others are fleeing that danger.
But why
and
is
I think we should give the police recognition for that.
As John Cooper said, why is a police officer's life more vulnerable than anyone in this country?
No one is suggesting that. We are acknowledging the fact that the police put themselves in the front line to protect innocent citizens, and it should be a deterrent against those who think they can attack a policeman and get away with it. So that will not happen in future.
So the question I'd like to ask really is, when Theresa May attends the fire officers' conference or the nurses' conference, will she announce a similar thing to appease them? The reality is these sort of sentences are available in the judge's discretion, and taking away the judge's discretion and simply saying in all cases... Let me give an example. I emphasise again, killing a police officer is appalling. But what about, for instance, there's a fight, there's a couple of punches thrown in a melee? That's technically murder. Why shouldn't a judge have the discretion to distinguish that murder and a callous, cruel shooting, which, of course, we'd all support Miss May on?
Well, if you're suggesting that, you're suggesting that we should not have any particular punishments for any sorts of crimes at all, and leave everything to the judge.
No, there is a regime, sentencing guidelines available. The question I'm directly asking you is, how can a judge distinguish between a police officer who is murdered, appallingly so, in a fight and 2 punches are thrown and the person dies, to a police officer who's shot in a shooting? Judges have this discretion now. What Theresa May has done now to please her crowd, understandably, politically, is take away that discretion.
No, it's not about pleasing the crowd. It's about providing a very definite deterrent to prevent people from attacking a policeman, murdering a policeman, doing so in a way that means they think they might just get away with a short sentence. In future, that will never happen again.
Well, how do you know that? I mean, how do you know it will act as a deterrent?
Well, I would think, human nature being what it is...
Hanging never acted as a deterrent?
Well, we can argue that point if you wish,
statistically
but that's not
it didn't.
what we're discussing today.
Hanging didn't act as a deterrent.
If you know you're going to lose your own freedom totally and permanently, you're going to think twice before you start attacking a policeman.
Even when hanging existed, there's a debate, obviously, we can have about capital punishment, but statistically, all the research shows that the death penalty did not deter crime. Therefore, this life sentence isn't deterring crime. The reality is, all this is doing is making sure Theresa May doesn't get heckled as she was last year.
Well, no, I don't agree with that. I think that this will be overwhelmingly supported by the British people. It's time we had this sort of deterrent, and maybe it should be extended to more types of crimes and have maximum penalties for some of the awful things that we see in our society today.
OK, just very briefly, what would be the most appropriate sentence in your opinion, John Cooper?
It depends on each individual circumstance. Full life in some, not so in others.
We'll leave it there. Andrew Rosindell and John Cooper, thank you very much for joining me tonight.